Rose had one rule in public: left hand. Always, not because she was afraid. Because Theo was 3, and 3 meant his body made decisions before his brain finished the thought. No warning, no negotiation. Just gone. So she kept her left hand locked around his small fingers and walked through the front doors of Hanguk International Academy for Gifted Children on a Tuesday morning in October and told herself this was right. Soul was right. The fellowship was right. Starting over was right. She had been telling herself that for 2 years. The lobby was everything the brochure promised: warm wood, soft light, 3 languages happening at the front desk simultaneously. Parents in pressed clothes, children in tiny uniforms, a woman in a blue blazer moving through the crowd with the calm of someone who had seen everything twice. Rose crouched to Theo's level and held his face gently between her hands. Listen to me. We stay together. We do not run. Theo looked at her with his big, serious eyes and nodded with his whole body. He had absolutely no intention of listening. She stood. She took his hand. They made it 11 steps. His fingers slipped through hers like water, and he was running. Not screaming. Not laughing. Running the way children run when something pulls at them that adults can't feel yet. His shoes squeaked against the polished floor, and Rose was already moving, keeping her voice low because they were in public, and she refused to be that mother on the first day. Theo, stop. He stopped, not because of her. Because he had reached the far wall of the main classroom, a long floor-to-ceiling mirror panel that lined the left side of the room, and he walked directly up to it and pressed both palms flat against the glass. Rose reached him, reached for his shoulder. Then she saw what he was looking at. On the other side of the mirror wall, through the glass dividing the classroom from the adjoining orientation room, a small boy was standing. Same height as Theo, same build, same dark watchful stillness, looking directly back. Rose's hand stopped in the air. The boys were the same warm brown. The same shape of jaw and brow, heavy, serious, carrying a weight their age didn't explain. The same expression that said, I am looking at something that matters. Theo pressed his palms harder against the glass. The other boy lifted both hands and pressed them against the same spot from the other side. Mommy. Theo's voice was barely a whisper. He looks like me. Rose did not move. Why does he look like me? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Is he my friend? A voice cut across the room, low, unhurried, the kind of voice that didn't need volume to land. Gino. Rose turned. The man standing at the corridor entrance was tall, dark coat, the kind of stillness that didn't come from peace but from years of discipline holding something in. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the boy through the glass. Then he looked at Theo. Then he looked at Rose. Neither of them spoke. The lobby noise moved around them like weather around 2 fixed points. Somewhere a child laughed. A door closed. He looked at Theo one final time. Something shifted in his jaw, barely visible, gone immediately. Then he crossed into the adjoining room, picked the boy up, and walked out, no words. No explanation. Rose stood at the mirror holding Theo's hand, staring at the empty space where that boy had been standing. Her heart was doing something she refused to name. If you are brand new here, welcome. You found us at exactly the right moment. And if you have been here before, you already know. Hit that subscribe button right now, drop a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from. We have people watching from Lagos to London to Seoul to Atlanta, and we want to hear from every single one of you. Now, let's go. Director Kwon found Rose before Rose could find her. She materialized at Rose's elbow during the transition to the orientation hall, blue blazer, silver pen, the smile of a woman who had been professionally unreadable for a very long time. Dr. Washington, I'm glad your morning was smooth. I'd like to request a classroom separation. Rose kept walking. For my son and the Yoon boy, Kwon didn't break stride. Placement decisions for this term are finalized. We can discuss it during the parent session. Prefer to discuss it now. Smile didn't move. This way, please. Orientation room was arranged in small clusters, 4 parents per table, a name card at each seat. Rose found hers. She looked at the card directly across from it. Yoon Sang-hoon. The man from the corridor sat down 2 minutes later. He saw the name card. He saw Rose sitting across from it. He sat down without hesitation and opened his folder without looking up. Rose looked at her own folder, told herself to focus. For 20 minutes she took notes. Director Kwon spoke curriculum philosophy, multilingual immersion, gifted early childhood frameworks. Rose was here on a fellowship. She had professional obligations. She did not look at the man across the table. She looked at him 11 times, not obviously. Controlled glances she told herself she wasn't taking, the shape of his face, the set of his brow, the particular weight of his jaw in the light. Theo had her eyes. Everyone said so. Her smile, her stubborn streak. Her way of going absolutely still when something interested him, but there were other things about Theo's face she had never been able to place. She closed the folder. The session ended. Rose stood and walked around the table before she could reason herself out of it. Mr. Yoon. He looked up. Close up, his expression was even more controlled, a man who had made a long-term commitment to revealing nothing. Your son's mother. She kept her voice low. Is she here in Seoul? Something moved through his eyes, gone before she could name it. Why are you asking? My son's father has been unreachable for 2 years. No address, no contact. He left without explanation. She held his gaze. I'm asking because I saw something this morning I cannot explain, and I am trying to find a rational starting point. Sang-hoon looked at her for a long moment. My ex-wife left 18 months ago, he said. Same way. A pause that had real weight in it. Nothing. Rose exhaled slowly. 2 years for me. 18 months for me. Just gone. Yes, she waited. He didn't add anything. He gathered his folder, stood, and looked at her one final time, not unkindly, but with the energy of a man closing a door he decided wasn't safe to leave open. Good morning, Dr. Washington. He left. Rose stood at the empty table and built her wall of reasonable explanations as fast as she could. Coincidences happened. Seoul had 10 million people. 2 single parents with absent exes was Tuesday morning statistics. She went to find Kwon. I'd like that classroom separation. Rose was standing in the office doorway. No preamble. Kwon looked up. As I mentioned, my son pressed his hands against the mirror wall this morning and asked me why that boy looks like him. Rose's voice didn't waver. That's why I'm asking. Kwon went still, not surprised still. Rose caught the difference immediately. Genuine surprise moved through a person, micro-shifts, involuntary adjustments. Kwon did none of that. She sat in a stillness that looked rehearsed. Rose filed it away. Children often perceive similarities that adults. I study early childhood development. Flat, final. I know what I saw. A pause. Placement cannot be altered at this stage. Kwon's eyes were steady and entirely unreadable. 6-week reassessment is our standard window, 6 weeks. Of course, Rose said. Thank you for your time. She walked out. She held her face together until the door closed. Her sister picked up on the second ring. First day, tell me everything. It was good. The academy is beautiful. Theo loved the activity room. Rose was at the kitchen table, tea going cold. Theo asleep in the next room. It was fine. That pause was not fine. That pause had an entire situation inside it. Rose turned her cup in a slow circle. I saw something today, another child, a little boy. She kept her voice clinical. He looked like Theo, not a passing resemblance, the kind where you look and then you look again and you cannot stop looking. Silence on Deja's end. Know what you're thinking, Rose said quickly. Children look alike. Mixed kids especially, there's a whole range. Who is the father? A man named Yoon Sang-hoon. His ex-wife left without explanation 18 months ago, which I understand sounds. Rose, I know. Marcus left 2 years ago. Deja, I'm not doing this tonight. Fast, hard. I called to tell you the school was beautiful and Theo made a friend and everything is fine. Silence. Is it? Rose looked at the wall. Theo's breathing moved through the monitor. Steady, small, unbothered. Have to go. She hung up. She looked at her phone for 3 seconds, opened the browser. Typed Marcus Caldwell. Stared at the same ghost results. No address. No trail. No professional listings. The digital afterimage of a man who had simply stopped existing. She put the phone down. She picked it back up. The next morning, the boys were in the same room. Rose saw it through the classroom window before she'd even signed the attendance sheet. Theo already moving toward the activity table. Gino already sitting there. And the moment Theo spotted him, he stopped completely. Then they both sat down. Side by side. No negotiation. No circling. No careful choreography. Just together. Like a gap that had always been open, closing. Rose stood at the window longer than she should have. Sang-hoon arrived for afternoon pickup and stopped beside her in the doorway without a word. They stood there watching the same thing, both boys at the same table, bent over the same drawing, Theo explaining something with enormous seriousness and Gino nodding along. Rose felt him look at her before he spoke. Kwon told me the placement was finalized. Told me the same. You requested a separation. Yesterday morning. I requested one today. A beat. She wasn't surprised. Rose let that land between them. Mr. Yoon. She kept her eyes on the classroom. What was your ex-wife's surname? Before she married you. She felt him go still, not the controlled professional stillness. Something different, something involuntary. He turned and looked at her. Caldwell, he said. The word hit her somewhere behind her sternum and spread cold through her chest. That's my ex-husband's name. Barely audible. Your ex-husband. Marcus Caldwell. Sang-hoon looked at Theo through the glass. His jaw shifted once. That's not possible, Rose said. I know. Sang-hoon. His name came out before she decided to use it. That cannot mean what it sounds like. He said nothing. He was watching Gino drag a crayon carefully across the page with his small, deliberate hand. Theo looked up from the drawing, waved at Rose through the glass. She raised her hand. Waved back. Her fingers were shaking. We are stopping right here because everything that just happened is about to rewrite every scene that came before it. If you are not subscribed yet, do it right now. Drop a like. And leave a comment telling us where in the world you are watching from, because this community is everywhere and we see every single one of you. What Sang-hoon just said. That name. You need to be here for what comes next. They met at the coffee shop across from the academy at 7:30. Both boys with sitters. Rose sat first, put both hands flat on the table. When Sang-hoon sat across from her, she said, "Tell me everything you know about Kim Jae-yeon." He didn't flinch. She went by Jennifer Kim internationally. We met in Singapore, married 2 years later. Gino came 18 months in. The practiced flatness of a man who had told this story enough times to sand the pain off the surface. 3 months after Gino was born, she said she needed a week at her mother's. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Marcus said he had a work trip, Rose said. 3 months after Theo. They looked at each other. 3 months, she said. Same window. After each birth. The coffee shop moved around them, bright, warm, completely indifferent. Someone laughed near the window. A name was called at the counter. "I called my lawyer last night," Sang-hoon said. "Attorney Beek. He's handled everything since the divorce." He set his phone on the table. "I asked him directly whether he had any knowledge of Marcus Caldwell." Rose waited. He was quiet for too long. His eyes were steady and very cold. Then he said, "I was told you both consented to the arrangement." And when I asked what arrangement, he hung up. The line went dead. Rose sat with those words, turned them over, felt their shape, consented to the arrangement. "He thinks we agreed to something," she said. "He was told we agreed." Agreed to nothing. Absolute. Nothing. She pressed her hands flat on the table. She thought about Theo's face. She thought about Gino through the glass. She thought about the way those boys sat down beside each other, no hesitation, no introduction. Two parts of something finding each other before their minds understood why. "Are you saying our sons might be?" "I'm not saying it." His voice was careful, the way things are careful when they are very close to breaking. "Not until something in front of me forces me to." "You're thinking it." He looked at the table. "I haven't stopped thinking it," Rose said. "Since yesterday morning, since my son pressed his hands against that glass and asked me why that boy looked like him. I have been building walls of explanation every hour since then." She stopped, rebuilt, and every single one of them has collapsed. Sang-hoon looked at her. The professional distance dropped, not completely, just enough, and what she saw underneath was not cold. It was something that had been running hot for a very long time and had learned to move without making noise. "Exes share a name," he said. "Or shared a life." A pause. "Maybe both, and they planned it, all of it, including what to tell us." Silence between them changed texture, not the silence of strangers navigating an impossible situation. The silence of two people who had just understood they were standing in the exact same wound. "We need to go to Beek," Rose said. "In person." "Won't take my calls." "Then we show up." Something moved through his expression, a door opening that he hadn't planned to open. "Together," he said, "together." Rose went to Kwon alone the next morning. She sat across from her in the quiet office and said, "I know you told the teacher to delete the photograph." Kwon's expression didn't move. "I spoke to her before drop-off." A fractional pause. "Doctor, Washington, I'm not here to damage your school. I'm here because 2 children in your care are at the center of something with serious legal implications, and I need to know what you know and how long you've known it." Kwon looked at her. The mask was flawless, but Rose had spent years reading people who were managing something, and what Kwon was managing right now was not ignorance. It was the weight of information she had been holding and hopping not to have to release. Kwon opened her desk drawer, slid a business card across the surface without a word. Rose picked it up. "Attorney Beek Junseo. I was contacted before the boys enrolled," Kwon said quietly. "I was asked to observe them, to note their interactions, to report any significant recognition events." Beek, a nod toward the card. Photograph. No documentation of the 2 boys together was to exist. No images, no written record. Her hands were folded on the desk. "I was told it was a sensitive family matter." "It is." Rose stood. Her voice was completely level. "Thank you, Director Kwon." She walked out. In the hallway, she stopped and pressed her back against the wall and let herself feel all of it, the fury, the shape of what was forming around her and Theo like something that had always been there, patient, waiting. She gave herself 4 seconds. Then she called Sang-hoon. "I have Beek's address," she said when he picked up, "and confirmation that someone was watching the boys before they ever set foot in that school." A silence on his end. She could feel him already moving. "Where are you?" he said. They stood outside Beek's building side by side, and Rose noticed Sang-hoon had shifted into a different register entirely. Not the composed professional distance he wore at the school, but the stillness of a man who had locked every exit from his own emotion and was standing guard at all of them simultaneously. She understood it. She was doing the same. The receptionist said Beek was unavailable. Sang-hoon said quietly that he would wait 40 minutes. Beek came out from the inner corridor. Small man, precise clothes. When he saw Sang-hoon, his pace slowed, and that single involuntary deceleration told Rose everything she needed to know about his conscience. Sang-hoon stood up. Beek. Just the name. Sometimes that was enough. Beek looked from Sang-hoon to Rose. His shoulders made a small, invisible decision. "Come to my office." He sat behind his desk. They sat across from it. He looked at his hands for a long time. "I handled both divorces," he said. "Yours." He looked at Sang-hoon. "And his." He looked at Rose. "Marcus Caldwell retained me first, 4 years ago. Jaeyeon came separately 3 months later." He swallowed. "By that point I understood the full situation. I should have refused. I knew that then." "What arrangement?" Sang-hoon's voice had no question mark, no inflection, just the words dropped like stones. "Boys were born 11 days apart." Beek looked at the desk. "Jaeyeon delivered first, private clinic in Busan. Marcus was there." He didn't look at Sang-hoon. "We're told it was a business conference." He swallowed again. "Rose delivered in Atlanta 3 days later. Marcus handled the documentation on both ends." Rose's thumbnail pressed into her palm. She did not move. "They planned to take both children initially," Beek said. "But 2 children complicated the disappearance, made everything harder." He opened the desk drawer. A folder landed between them. "So they divided them, 1 each. And each parent was told." "Say it," Sang-hoon said. Beek looked at the folder. "Each parent was told the second child hadn't survived. Neonatal complication. The records were fabricated." He pushed the folder forward. "I kept the originals, 3 years. I don't fully know why. I think some part of me always knew this day was coming." Sang-hoon didn't touch the folder. Rose opened it. She looked at the documents, the dates, the names: Theo Marcus Caldwell, Gino Sang-hoon Yoon. And underneath both, the original birth record. 1 document, 2 names, 1 birth. 11 days split across 2 hospitals, 2 countries, 2 people who were never supposed to find each other. She closed the folder. The room was completely silent. Then Sang-hoon said very quietly, "Where are they now?" Beek shook his head. "Last contact was 14 months ago. After that," he spread his hands. "Nothing. You sat on this for 3 years." Rose's voice was even, precise. The voice of a woman holding something enormous at arm's length. "You watched 2 children grow up on opposite sides of a lie. You watched 2 people." She stopped. "You watched us." Beek had the decency not to defend himself. Rose stood. "We'll need every document, every communication, today." She picked up the folder. "We'll wait." Sang-hoon drove her home without being asked. He simply walked beside her to the parking garage and unlocked the car and said, "I'll drive." And she got in without argument because her legs worked, but her mind was somewhere very far away. And she trusted, on some cellular level she hadn't had time to examine, that he was not going to let her come apart alone on a Seoul street. He parked in front of her building. Neither of them moved. Outside, the city went on: lights, traffic, the particular noise of a place that had no idea what had just happened to 2 people sitting in a car on one of its streets. "He told you Theo was your only child," Sang-hoon said. "Yes." "You never questioned it." "Was there for all of it, the pregnancy, the birth. He held Theo in the delivery room and she stopped. "I spent a year after he left trying to figure out what I did wrong." Sang-hoon exhaled. Long, controlled. "Jaeyeon told me she was struggling after Gino," he said. "That motherhood was harder than she expected. I rearranged everything, gave her everything she said she needed." The muscle in his throat worked once. She was already gone. She'd been gone long before she walked out the door. Rose turned and looked at him. He was staring straight ahead. And for the first time she saw it, what lived underneath the discipline. Not coldness. Something that had been running at high temperature for a very long time and had simply learned to move without making sound. "I'm sorry," she said. He turned. And what was on his face in that moment was not management. It was the thing management existed to protect. Raw and brief and real. "I'm sorry, too," he said. They sat in the car in the October dark with the documents on the back seat and their sons asleep somewhere behind separate walls. And Rose felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years, not comfort. It was too new and too raw for that word. But the specific relief of being near someone carrying the identical weight. It was something. In the absence of everything else, it was something. Theo was on the couch when she got upstairs. Shoes still on. One hand curled under his cheek. chest rising and falling in the unbothered rhythm of children who don't yet know what the world is capable of. Rose sat beside him and looked at his face. 10,000 times she had looked at this face. The small scar near his left eyebrow, the way his nose scrunched in deep sleep, the exact warmth of his skin in low light. She looked at him now and tried to find Gino in him, tried to hold both faces side by side in her memory. She could only see Theo, her son, 30 pounds, squeaky shoes. A habit of running toward mirrors, but across this city in another apartment, another boy was sleeping with his same jaw, his same stillness, his same instinct to press his hands flat against glass and look for something on the other side. A knock at the door. Sang-hoon was in the hallway with a full document package under his arm. I can't keep this at my place tonight. She stepped back. Let him in. He came inside. He saw Theo on the couch. He stopped. He stood very still, looking at the sleeping child, and Rose watched his face do something she suspected it almost never did in front of anyone. It opened. Just a fraction, just enough to see inside. He set the documents on her counter without a word, then he looked at her. We can't let them find out from a courtroom, he said. I know. They're 3 years old. They found each other through a mirror. Something crossed his face, not quite pain, not quite anger, something that lived in the space between the two. They don't need lawyers, they need time. Each other, Rose said. He was quiet. And whoever did this needs to be found before they hear anything and run again. His voice was low, absolute. No legal filings, no announcements. We move carefully. Agreed. He looked at her for a moment longer than the conversation required. In the low light of her apartment, with Theo breathing behind them and the documents between them on the counter, something passed between Rose and Sang-hoon that neither of them reached for and neither of them pulled away from, not yet, but it was there, real the way things are real before they have names. Then we find them first, he said, together. He held her gaze one beat longer, then he looked at the door. Rest, he said. Tomorrow we start. He left. The door closed. Rose stood in the hallway and breathed. Then she went back to the couch and lifted Theo against her. His dead weight, his warmth, the way his head always found the exact space between her shoulder and her jaw like it was built for him specifically. She held him, she breathed him in. He stirred without waking. His face shifted the way sleeping children's faces do when they're processing something at the edge of a dream. He murmured. Shapeless at first, she leaned closer. What baby? He murmured it again. Slower, clearer. Is the boy who looks like me my brother? Rose went completely still. She looked at her son's closed eyes, his small, sleeping mouth. The hand that had pressed itself flat against a mirror that morning and recognized something she still didn't have the courage to say out loud. She didn't answer him. She sat in the quiet and held the question in the space between them, enormous and fragile and completely, devastatingly real. She didn't answer, because she didn't know yet what the truth would cost him. And because the part of her that was already doing the math, the part that had been doing the math since the moment she saw that boy's hands press against the glass from the other side, already knew. Thea asked the question Rose can't answer. Sang-hoon is out there right now holding documents that are about to burn everything down. And Marcus and Jae-yeon, wherever they are living a life built entirely on what they stole from two people who never saw it coming. Episode 2 does not slow down. Before you go, we need you in the comments. If you were Rose, standing there holding Theo, knowing what she knows right now, would you tell him the truth? Or would you wait? Drop your answer below. And tell us where in the world you are watching from, because this community shows up from every corner of this globe and every comment gets read. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave that like. We will see you in episode 2, and it is not going to be quiet.